Good evening and welcome to Black's Vets Live from the Dudley Hospital. Thank you for joining us as we virtually open our new imaging suite and theatre. 6 years ago, we opened our refurbished state-of-the-art accredited hospital, and we're delighted that we have been able to continue to invest in our facilities to enable us to care for pets across the Black Country. I am thrilled to be able to hand you over to Christopher Timothy, who will officially open our new facilities.
6 years ago, I was there to open the newly refurbished hospital. It was an occasion that I remember very well and I enjoyed thoroughly, so you can imagine my delight when I was asked to be with you there again, to open the new extension housing a cutting-edge CT scanner and an additional theatre. I wish I could be with you there in person, but hey, I am distancing at a distance. Black's Vets have always enjoyed a fine reputation as the go-to veterinary practice for pet owners in the West Midlands. The team is always determined that the hospital's ethos should revolve around being at the very heart of veterinary practice and veterinary excellence, and they know that this scanner is a key step in continuing to do just that. This amazing piece of kit delivers a remarkable level of detail, much greater than X-ray or ultrasounds, which of course adds another dimension for treatments. The addition of another theatre is testament to their wonderful clients, many of whom I met 6 years ago, and you haven't changed a bit. This is a serious leap forward for Black's Vets. James Herriot could only have dreamt of having such technical expertise at his fingertips. There is more information on the practice's website, which is www.blacksvets.co.uk. I really didn't think I'd remember that, and I didn't. Anyway, take a look or search on social media. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and it is with great pride and pleasure that I now declare this CT scanner open and ready for business. Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you, Christopher Timothy, for officially opening our imaging suite. We are now about to have a little tour of the CT scanner from Clinical Director Brian Hogan. You may notice the sound quality dip a little in our filming here. This is because we must have air conditioning permanently on in this suite to keep the CT scanner at the correct temperature. I'll now pass you over to Brian.
Hi, welcome to Black's CT. This is the actual CT machine here. This part here is called the gantry, the big donut really, and this is where all the action happens really. There's a plain X-ray, you've got a single view, you've got the X-ray machine and it takes it in one view. The difference between that and the CT is that on the CT, the X-ray head is moves very rapidly within the donut, and the detectors pick up the X-rays. So that allows us to get a complete three-dimensional view and far more detail than we get with a plain X-ray. You can actually reconstruct for example with bones, you can actually reconstruct the bone to actually look like a bone. It's just amazing the detail you get really. So what else have we got here? We've got the anaesthetic machine here. This is for our patients, because most of our patients will need to be either heavily sedated or under anaesthesia. It's really important that they keep still when they're having their CT, because any movement will give blurred images. Another thing we've got here, we've got what's called a multi-parameter. Now this is a machine for patient safety. It checks their temperature, pulse, respiration, oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels. It detects this through a little tongue probe. So it's a little gentle, like a little forceps that attaches to the tongue very gently, and it can pick up all these things, and it just helps with our safety of the patient. Got our teddy bear ready to go. So what would happen if we're doing a CT is we would decide what images were required, whether it's his knee or his head or etc., and then we tell the machine what areas that are involved. So then the table moves gently through the donut, and as that's happening, the X-rays are generated and it produces a CT image which we read outside. Other things we have here is we've got air conditioning in this room. Now this is quite important because the CT works at a specific temperature. You have to warm the CT up before it will work really. It has to be warm really. But then, as it produces all this energy from the X-ray machine spinning, produces an awful lot of heat. Now that does depend on how much images you're taking in, whether it's a very detailed image or whether it's less detailed. But all that heat then needs to dissipate. So after you've done the CT, it might need a rest before it takes the next one, really then. Other things we have here, we've got this machine here, which is basically a contrast injector. Now, what a contrast injector does is, for many of our patients, and they might have things like inflammatory lesions or tumours or things like that, and there may be specific areas that have altered blood supply. So this contrast injector injects a dye into the patient. Now it's synchronized with the CT machine, so the CT machine knows when the contrast is on that area is at its optimal, so it can decide when to start the CTs because of that, really. It's very clever, really. You can do this manually as well, and you can estimate the sort of time, but it's really handy to have this connected with the CT machine. That's it, I think.
Thanks for that, Brian. A very insightful guide to our new CT scanner. We are just about ready for a Q&A session. I know lots of you have already sent in some questions you would like Fiona and I to answer. So let's go and join her in our CPD room.